Everybody, I'm Val Little, and I'm the chair of the GUAC for the Tucson AMA. And do our two other members who are with us want to introduce themselves? Pat and Doug.
I'll go first. I'm Pat Jacobs. I'm with the Central Arizona Project and the Arizona Water Protection Fund.
Good. Doug?
I'm Doug Greenland. I'm with the Cortero Marana Irrigation District.
And how about some of you other folks? Asia, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Asia Philbin, Town Marana Water Resources.
Brett? Brett's incognito.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear. My name's Brett Eflin. I'm with Arizona Department of Water Resources, Colorado River Management Section.
Great. Colby? Colby, you with us?
Hello.
Okay, how about Craig?
Good morning, everybody. Craig McGinnis, also with ADWR's Colorado River Management Section.
Mr. Heller? Ollie and Eric.
Eric, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Eric Holler, Community Water Coalition.
Okay, good to have you. Flowing Wells, that must be Dave. He's not signing in. Jaime. Oh, Mike. John Stitzer.
JD Stitzer, Freeport, McMoran, Sarita.
Thank you, John. Maggie?
Good morning, everyone. Maggie Martin at ADWR, Management Plan Specialist.
Mitch?
Good morning. I'm Mitch Basevsky with Central Arizona Project Public Affairs.
Melody's muted. Natalie?
Good morning. My name is Natalie Mest. I am the AMA Director responsible for the management plans.
Nick? He's muted as well. Tim's with us now. Good. Good morning, Tim. He's muted.
Good morning.
Simone?
Hello.
And Wally?
Good morning, Wally Wilson. I'm the Water Resource Manager with.
Okay, I think that's it. I gotta go to my script. I'm gonna get this wrong. I'm gonna get in a lot of trouble. Okay. We have a quorum, blah, blah, blah. Would ADWR staff members have introduced themselves? AMA staff introductions, they've been. I would like to start with agenda item number 2, webinar logistics. Kennedy, take it away.
Well, so just a few things before we get started, just some webinar logistics. We please ask that all members of the public please keep your phone muted during the meeting. It helps with sound and feedback. If I see that you do get unmuted during the meeting, I will mute you. If you have any questions or comments in the chat box, they will be read and addressed at the end of the presentation. And you also have a chance to speak to the council. If you want to unmute yourself, that'll be during our call to public. And if you are experiencing any technical difficulties, our help desk is available to you. Their number and email is on the screen. And this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube page probably later this week. think so. That's all I have.
Thank you, Kennedy. Okay, item number 3, we need to elect a GUAC vice chair. It says we are to discuss this. Well, everybody's talking at once. That's good. Yeah, that's great. Oh.
We must have all been on mute, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. So anybody want to volunteer? Anybody want to nominate somebody?
Well, Madam Chair, aren't we still one member short?
But the DWR put that on the agenda, so.
Okay, well, I didn't know if you wanted to wait till all the chairs were full or.
I do, and we can certainly do that. We can certainly do that. I'm just following my script so that I don't go to jail.
It's a good choice.
Yeah. Do you want to hold off?
Sense to me.
Okay. Okay, I don't see anybody clamoring to be the vice chair. Okay. With that being said and done, we'll put that on our next meeting agenda, and we'll move to item number 4, Colorado River update. Brett.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Brett Eklund, I'm the water systems engineer at ADWR for the Colorado River section. So today we'll just be going over the basin state and some of the 24-month studies and CRS test models. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here we have the reservoir status. You can see upper basin reservoirs, especially Fontenelle and Blue Mesa, have dropped their capacities down, anticipating hopefully some good snow inflow. Currently, we have Lake Powell at 40% capacity, or 9.7 million acre feet, with a current elevation of 3,576.91 feet. That was as of Friday. Lake Mead, also at 40% capacity, which is 10.5 million acre feet, with a current elevation of 1085.67. We look at the system as a whole, we're at 45% of the capacity, or 27.3 million acre feet, and we compare that to last year at this time, we were at 51%, or 31.2 million acre feet. So a little lower, but that's to be expected with the poor hydrology that we've had this year. So here we have the SWE, or the snow water equivalent chart. We are currently at 43% of the seasonal median, which is the purple line, we're at the 43% of the peak, which is the 16.1 inches. We're currently at 6.9 inches. Based on the average, we're at the 6.9 of what would normally be 9.5 at this time. Just for comparison, I've included the two, what I would say are comparable years as to how this year is shaping out, which is 2012 in the red and 2018 in the green, so that we can kind of anticipate where we're going to be later on in the season. Generally, we peak right around the second week of April. So it's not looking great, but we do have some comparable years that we can compare it to so far. So looking at the coordinated operations of Powell and Mead, we have the current elevations, which are in red, Powell on the left, Mead on the right. We have, based on the 24-month study that came out in January, we're anticipating Powell to end the water year at 3563.97. That does put us in the mid-elevation release tier, which will give us a 7.48 release in water year 22. On the right, we have Mead ending the calendar year at 1069.75. That is below 1075, which puts us in a tier 1 shortage for water year 22 also. Next slide, please. So these are the numbers provided by the Bureau of Reclamation for the 24-month study. We have the January 24-month study, which gives us a min, most, and max, which are the blue, green, and red lines. And we're comparing that to what we saw in the December study, which is the gold or orangish line. So for Powell, we can see that between December and January, due to the decrease in inflows, the expected elevation have jumped about 6 feet. And we're looking to end calendar year 21 at an elevation of 3558.5 with a range of 3537 to 3578. And if we go out to the end of calendar year 22, we're looking at ending at 3578 and range of 3518 to 3625. So the elevation does go up. That's due to the release of the 748. It does help Powell's elevations, releasing less. But also, the further we go out, the more variability there is, which is why there's such a wider range of possibilities. Next slide, please. So now, same studies, but now we're looking at mead. So if we look at the comparison between December and January, not a huge difference. The only variations that you're going to see are just from the predictions of side inflows. The December and January studies are assuming that there's an 823 release from Lake Mead and there will be no April adjustment. So we end the calendar year at the 1069.75 again, with a range of 1067 to 1088. And then going out to 22, we have a range of 1057, elevation of 1057.1 with a range of 1054 to 1080. So we are expecting the 823 this year. We're expecting the 748 in 22. And it's not official yet, but come the February model, most likely we'll be looking at a 748 release for water year 23 also. Next slide, please. So last Friday, the Bureau of Reclamation published their January CRS-SM-TAW model. This is the 5-year probability looking at Lake Powell. We have the full hydrology in the greenish hue and a stressed hydrology in the yellowish. The points to take away, obviously, in 22, we're looking at a 77% chance of Mead being in, Powell being in the mid-elevation tier, which is going to cause that 748 release. And then as time goes on, we can see that that decreases due to the lower releases. It helps with the recovery of Lake Powell, so those probabilities go down. And then getting back into those upper elevation releases is where we'd like to go. On the next slide, please. This is the same study. It's just for Lake Mead. So as you can see in the table, we're looking at a 60% chance of being in a tier 1 for next year. And although the 24-month study is showing that we will be, it's deterministic, whereas on the CRSS model, they take the different hydrologies and use statistical analysis to get the probabilities. So this is just showing the probability of us being in it, but most likely we will be, barring some great events like the Miracle May, which we would love to see again. So that we can see the chances of shortage are going to increase. Again, that's most likely because the 748 releases are going to affect the elevations in Mead, which is going to draw us closer to that 1050 line, which we would love not to hit. Under the stress test hydrology, which is the what we would say is a poorer case of just more dry hydrology from 1988 till 2018. We do see that chance of a tier 3 has doubled, now at 20%. Last year in August, I believe, was the first study we ever saw that go into double digits. And now we're already at a 20% chance of being in lower than 1025 after 2025. The next slide, please. So that's all I have for you today. Just know that the department is currently under the Arizona reconsultation, which hopefully everybody is participating in, at least viewing it. Information is available on CAWCD's website as well as our website under the /tag ARC. I'm sorry, the website /ARC, A-R-C. And we're just currently holding discussions on how we're going to handle the renegotiation of the 07 guidelines. And this is strictly for Arizona. We haven't started any interbasin state conversations yet. And with that, I can take any questions.
Thank you, Brett. That's great. Do any of the GUAC members have questions for Brett? Okay. Pretty docile bunch this morning. Well, thank you, Brett. And I'm sure that as the time goes on and at our next meeting, you'll give us an update. And we may have additional questions then, but thank you.
Sure, glad to be here.
Okay, moving on to item number 5, current activities of the department update. Kyle, you there?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council, and good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. So I'd like to start by sharing with you our 2019 statewide water use estimates. But before we get to that, I just want to provide a quick overview of what data we use to calculate those estimates. Our statewide use estimates are a combination of reported data and data from other sources. And when we're talking about reported data, we're referring to the AMA annual reports that we receive each year. Users with wells greater than 35 gallons per minute in the AMAs and INAs must meter their pumping, and then those who are subject to reporting requirements have to file those annual reports with us each year. And those reports include a broad range of information, which varies by the type of right or the type of water user, but generally we're asking for things like the volumes of water pumped or received, and then what happens to that water once it's been pumped or received. We do have certain reporting requirements laid out in statute, but ADWR has the authority to require additional information as necessary to accomplish the goals of each of the 5 AMAs. And as just a reminder, the annual reports are due March 31st of each year, but that doesn't mean the data is available immediately thereafter. So some of our annual reports are able to be submitted online, but many users still like to submit paper copies, or as has been the case over the last year with COVID, submit their annual reports via email. And in those cases, the data from those reports has to be manually entered into our database. Our staff work through that data entry, conduct quality checks on the data, and compile and store that data in a number of different ways over the course of several months. As you can see on this chart here, the compiled data from each sector feeds into a total supply and demand template for each AMA, and then the data from each of the AMAs is combined and added to information from outside the AMAs to give us our statewide water use estimate each year. And this is obviously a great oversimplification of a long and detailed process, but this is something we plan to have completed by about early November of each year, just in time to kind of get ready for the next year's reporting season. So we know our reported data is incomplete, and that means we're often piecing together reported data and data from other sources to do a given analysis or to calculate our statewide estimates in this case. This slide is just showing some typical examples of our other data sources. We create estimates of tribal demands and demands from exempt wells to better understand water use inside the AMAs. We get information from the Bureau of Reclamation to better understand total Colorado River uses and information from the USGS regarding water use estimates outside the AMAs. We also use Census and Bureau of Economic Analysis data on the director's chart. One of our most popular charts shows water usage over time as the population in Arizona has increased and the economy has grown. So with all that being said, let's take a look at the numbers here. And this chart is showing demand by sector for 2019 compared to 2018 for the state. And these numbers don't really change that much year to year. I just want to note here that the total demand for 2019 is just below 6.9 million acre feet for the state, and that's compared to slightly over 7 million acre feet in the 2018 annual year. Moving on, and similar to the previous chart, this is showing 2018 and 2019, this time for supply by water type. And again, these numbers are typically pretty stable year over year. In-state surface water can occasionally have some more variability if we have a nice wet winter. One thing I'm happy to highlight here is the increase in effluent use year over year, and it may only be 1%, but the actual number is an increase of about 20,000 acre feet in effluent use year over year in the AMAs. So that's a big step, and that's building on another large increase that we saw during the 2018 calendar year. And focusing on your AMA, here we have Tucson 2019 supply and demand numbers, and these are totaling out to 303,394 acre feet for the 2019 calendar year, and that's a decrease of 11,000 acre feet compared to 2018. So about half of the Tucson AMA's demands are from the municipal sector, with another third coming from ag. And interestingly, the industrial sector has remained pretty steady over the last several years, even as the economy in Tucson has grown and diversified. Looking over at the supply, the Tucson AMA supplies over half of its demands with CAP water, and that's either recovered or used directly. Groundwater supplies about 40% of the demands, and the remainder is filled by effluent and a little tiny bit of surface water. So we understand that we have a responsibility in the AMAs and at the department to get this data into the public's hands so they can interact with it, learn about water use in the state and in the AMAs in particular. And one way for us to accomplish that is through our AMA data page, and I've provided a link to that page in the upper right-hand side of this slide here, where all of this data, previous year's data, and more detailed information on all the sectors can be found and downloaded and interacted with how you like. I have a couple more topics I'd like to touch on, but I can pause here for any questions.
Kyle, I have a question. Explain in detail what an example of the surface water 1% would be.
For the Tucson AMA, I think it's an irrigation district, uses a very small amount of surface water, pretty close to the Santa Cruz. I believe it's subflow, but it's classified as surface water.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before he moves on?
Val?
Asia has a question.
Asia asked, is any of the groundwater replenished?
So some of the groundwater would be replenished from the municipal sector. I don't have those numbers here, but that's something we can send out or provide at a future meeting.
Good, yes. Other questions? Am I missing stuff in the chat? Let's see.
Hey, Val?
Yes, sir.
This is Eric.
Yes.
Where can we get copies of these presentations?
So
I
these
bet it's at that website at the top of the page. Is that right, Kyle?
Yes, the data is all on that page, where we also will post these presentations on our website so they can be downloaded at a later date, and you'll have the slides themselves if you like.
Okay, so I have to write that down or just navigate to it?
Do a screenshot like I just did.
Exactly. Okay, thanks.
Okay, other questions for Kyle? Other comments? Okay, take it away, Kyle.
All right, thank you. So we are in the middle of our annual reporting season for calendar year 2020 water use, and this is the busiest time of the year for our group. We typically receive over 6,000 annual reports over just the next couple months. That includes over 1,000 from the Tucson AMA. You may have noticed the last couple of weeks we've been sending out reminder letters and reminder emails, and those are parts of our efforts to decrease our failure to file numbers. We're continuing to make incremental improvements in our annual reporting process, and we've continued our online reporting tool for some reports, and I know our staff is looking forward to helping any customers or right holders with filling out those reports as needed. What I have here on the screen is the front page of our online reporting tool, and you'll see in the middle that blue button, File an Annual Report. I just wanted to show this, and you can click on that File an Annual Report button, enter your right number and your email address. And at that point, if you are able to file your report online, you can proceed. Otherwise, you have the option to send a PDF copy of your annual reporting forms to your email address. So it's just a quicker way to get your annual report forms without having to call us and leave a voicemail and wait for us to get back with you. It's one of our little changes. Those reports are all due March 31st, and I will provide an update on where we stand with those at our next meeting. Next, I want to give a quick update on the Governor's Water Augmentation, Innovation, and Conservation Council. So since our last meeting in November, the full council met on December 1st, and at that meeting, the council received updates from each of the 4 committees, an overview of our groundwater conservation grant process, and a drought update from Nemesis, and she's our drought and conservation coordinator. The next meeting for the full council is scheduled for March 19th from 8 to 10. Moving on to the committees, on December 10th, the non-AMA's Groundwater Committee met, and at that meeting, ADWR's Chief Counsel, Ken Slowinski, gave an overview of irrigation non-expansion areas, and Representative Regina Cobb presented on rural management areas. The post-2025 AMA Committee met on December 15th, and they discussed 3 issue briefs that that group has been working on. One related to the Assured Water Supply Program, one related to the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District, or CAGRID, and a third one focusing on AMA management and structure. So current version of those issue briefs are all posted on the post-2025 AMA Committee website, and there's also a comment submission form there so you can make your thoughts known on those. The next meeting for that committee is scheduled for February 9th from 10 to 12 a.m. The final committee meeting we have scheduled currently is the Long-Term Water Augmentation Committee meeting, and that's March 12th from 10 to 12. And I just want to remind everyone that those meetings are all open to the public and there's no formal membership, so please do participate if you're interested in getting involved in these discussions. And all of those meetings are also recorded and posted to our website if you're unable to attend or need to catch up. And that concludes my statewide activities update.
Okay, other questions or comments for Kyle? Hearing none, let's move on to item number 6, WMAP updates from Melissa. Melissa, are you there?
Hi, good morning. I'll be going over the WMAP withdrawal fee fund and the projects, and I'll also address the status of the DCP or the $2 million groundwater conservation grant project. We're just going to pull it up right now, so we'll just be a moment. Okay, so this is just a brief update of the current fees and where they stand. So for 2020, we have the breakdown here, and then it's also remained the same for 2021. We're currently collecting for 2020, so there's no numbers to state how much we've currently collected. And when we get down into the Water Management Assistance Program Fund, our current balance is $41,349, but we have an encumbered and committed fund of $22,050, and which leaves us with $19,299. And that remaining $22,050 is coming from the Arizona Project WET program that is set to end October 30th, 2021. We also have this table that gives an update on the groundwater conservation grants. And as you know, we have the 3 that were selected for the AMA, and we're still in the process of drafting 2 of those projects, but the one automated gate for the Marana Road Canal has been executed and has started working on their project, and that contract will end May 31st, 2024. So that's all I have for the WMAP update. Are there any questions regarding the PCP or the WMAP projects? Great. I guess we'll just move on to the next.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Now we're going to item number 7, management plans update. Maggie?
Thank you, Madam Little and members of the council. My name is Maggie Martin. I am a management plan specialist working at EDWR on the management plans team. And today I will be providing status updates on the 4th and 5th management plans. I will start with the 4th management plan. Next slide. Thank you. So we did set a goal to complete the remaining 4th management plans by the end of 2020, and we did complete that goal. I think you're all familiar with this process, but I'll just include as a reminder the general process for the development of the 4th management plans are included on the top of this slide. The Tucson AMA, as you know, completed this process in 2016, and the Prescott AMA 4th management plan was adopted in 2014. The Phoenix AMA completed this process in the spring of this year, and the Santa Cruz AMA completed this process in October of last year. The Pinal AMA 4th management plan was adopted in December of last year. While we worked towards the adoption of the remaining 4th management plans, we were also working on the development of the 5th management plans, which I will go into more detail about now. Next slide, please. Our goal is for all 5 of the 5th management plans to go into effect on January 1st, 2025. In order to achieve this goal, we need to adopt the 5th management plans by 2022, so we'll be spending much of this year drafting all 5 of the 5th management plans. However, we will be sequencing the drafting process in a way that allows for some of these discussions with stakeholders in the regulated community to continue in the management plans work group and subgroup meetings over the next several months. Next slide, please. As you know, we have been using the 5th management plans work group process to work through the development of the 5th management plans. The progress we've made is well documented on our 5MP concept page on our website. We're working on a pretty tight timeline for developing and finalizing those 5th management plans, but we do want to hear from the GUAC and stakeholders on recommendations. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, all 5 of the 5th management plans will be drafted simultaneously this year. The structure of each of the plans will be largely consistent across all of the AMAs, but we are allowing time for AMA customization as each of the AMAs are unique and different. As we work through the 5th management plans, the subgroup meetings will reconvene on a as-need basis so we can review the draft regulatory language with the regulated community. Next slide, please. I wanted to end with the management plan work group meetings that we have coming up. We are still working on scheduling our next full management plans work group meetings, but we have several subgroup meetings throughout February and March. The dates for those meetings are available on that website included at the top of the slide here. And again, we really welcome and encourage your participation in these subgroup meetings. If there are particular topics that you'd like more information on or discussions that you'd like to have, we'd be happy to put that on the agenda for future GUAC meetings. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and attention. My contact information is available on this slide, and I'm happy to take questions from the council.
Comments or questions for Maggie? Maggie, this is Val. The words, time for customization. The Tucson AMA worked for, probably 15 or 20 years to try to carve out the uniqueness of our AMA. And I think that's sort of reflected in the fact that our fourth management plan was completed several years ago, as opposed to the ones that you're just now finalizing. My question about time for customization, does that mean within the time frame of developing these management plans, or does that mean extending the time? And what will that time look like? Will it be centered around extensive workshops within GUAC, or how?
Sure. So we are planning on writing all 5 of the fifth management plans this year. However, we will be writing each of those plans individually on their own. Some of that narrative in each of the plans remains consistent throughout all of the AMAs, but the data and references to dashboards and customizations, for example, within Tucson is very different than Phoenix per se. So we will be writing all of those plans this year, but we are allowing a lot of time to customize for each of the AMAs. And if there's anything that you'd like for us to add to the agenda for next time, so we can go into a little bit more detail here with the GUAC, we'd be happy to do that too. So I'm not sure if that answered your question, but we are writing each of these plans individually as well. So
sorry,
Natalie might have something.
Yes, sorry, this is Natalie. Hi, Val. Sorry to jump in here. Just to add a little bit to what Maggie said, we certainly recognize that each of the AMAs are unique, and what we would ask from the regulated community, from the GUAC, is to help point out to us where those customizations might be most useful in these plans. So like Maggie said, that's certainly something we can add to a future agenda item for the GUAC. But we're really looking for guidance from you all who know the AMA so well on where we should be focusing that kind of customization attention.
I think it probably, I'm only speaking for myself, not for the council, but it seems like if you're talking about finalizing our fifth management plan this year, considering how long we worked on the fourth management plan, we should probably have this item in some form at every GUAC meeting, I would think. In times past, we've been very involved in a lot of the nuts and bolts of our management plan, and I want to make sure that we don't lose that given the distance of COVID and Zoom meetings and all that. So
Sure. And we do recognize that it is a fast process, and we are hoping to meet these timelines, but we also want to allow for time for GUAC members and the regulated community to be involved in this drafting process. We are working on a tight timeline here, but we are happy to add any sort of agenda items to this meeting for next time, as you and the members of the council see fit.
Let's clarify whether you're going to draft something that we're going to respond to, or whether we would be involved in the drafting. I'm not really clear about how that would work.
Sure, Natalie, do you want to take that?
Sure, thanks. So what we've been doing throughout the last year and a half or so in our fifth management plans work group is really developing the framework for the fifth management plans, which we at the department will kind of draft into standard language across the AMAs. What we're hoping to do is preview some of that language over the course of the next year as it gets developed, and get feedback from each AMA to better understand where things need to be tweaked for the individual AMAs. We're hoping to keep the general framework largely matching, but we know that there are specific items that might vary between different AMAs. And I know that's not a terribly specific answer, but I think it's going to kind of depend on the specific items that you all might have suggestions on for what could be customized there.
I'm going to have to think about this a little bit more. Other members of the council, comments?
I think it would be very good to be able to see what they've come up with and be able to help answer a lot of questions, because I know in my area there's a lot of questions about what are the options or what possibilities are even coming out of this. So I think having them on the agenda every time is great.
I think at the very least,
Yeah.
have it on the agenda. The other comment I want to make is that thinking back about when we went through this fourth management plan process, I don't think any of you ADWR staff were on staff then. I mean, there's been a complete turnover, so that all the folks that we were working with and the way that we worked were from folks who are long gone. And so the fact that these management plans have now been divided up among water use sectors rather than AMA specific is causing me a little bit of discombobulation. And I'm sure we'll work through that, but I think getting this on the agenda and talking this through at all of our meetings. I know that some of our folks down here are attending these meetings, but not all of us. And so I think having it on the GUAC agenda is probably a good idea, and maybe even a little more in-depth meetings as we go along. So,
sure.
Any other comments or questions about this, the management plans?
Sorry, Val, excuse me.
That's okay.
I would really like to just encourage you all to take a look at that concepts page that we have linked to on this screen. Historically, I understand what you're saying about dividing up by sector rather than by AMA. And historically, it might have been approached a little bit differently, but the outcome was kind of the same, that the individual programs largely matched across the AMAs. So the GPCD program is structured similarly in all 5 AMAs. The BMP for Ag program is structured similarly across all the AMAs. So it's not too much of a departure, hopefully to ease some of your concerns here, it's not too much of a departure from what has been done previously. We are kind of in the initial development having kind of all of those program proposals match, and we'll be discussing how each of those program proposals might need to be adjusted or considered more thoroughly for the specifics of each AMA. So I would really encourage you all to check out that concepts page. We've got a lot of the details of the proposals and the things we've developed for the 5th management plans in each sector on that page. And with kind of doing that background work, looking at that page ahead of time, we might be able to have a really detailed, more productive conversation on the specifics of those concepts rather than trying to do a more general kind of educational catch-up discussion next time. That might be a better use of the time.
Thank you, Natalie. Any other comments or questions before we move on? Okay, I'm going to jump to item number 8, call to the council. Any comments or questions from the council? Okay. How about a call to the public? Anybody in the public want to say anything? Oh man, we're moving right along here. So item number 10, my text says, unless there's an objection, I will be adjourning the meeting. Hearing no objections, the meeting is adjourned at 10:45. Thank you, staff, for the updates, and thanks all you guys for tuning in, and we'll see our would-be new member next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good day.